Hey guys, how you going? This is BillyEatWorld again, and today we're going to take a look at something a bit different. We're going to talk about the EA Gamechanger program, and specifically I want to get into my personal experience with the program, and in particular how it affects Battlefield 5. Now, the reason I want to get into this today is because I feel like there's a lot of confusion in the community at the moment about what we actually do and how to become a part of the program. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And just remember, if you've got any specific questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Alright, so to kick off, I just want to start by saying that even though I am a game changer, I want to stress that I'm not an EA employee, and this video is by no means official. And also, I should mention that this video is specifically only going to be about the program as it relates to Battlefield 5, as I'm not really involved at the moment with any other franchises. Also, just to give you a bit of background, I've been a part of the program since about 2016. I do attend events on a regular basis, and I have actually made sponsored content in the past. And I'm guessing these things are probably why you've clicked on this video. So if you are interested in understanding more about how these things work, stay tuned because we're going to get into all of that in just a sec. So to kick off, what is the EA Gamechanger program? Well, basically it's an official EA program which combines a bunch of things that previously would have been separate. Like, for example, on the surface, it might look like it's just a fancy name for an influencer program, but it's actually more than that. It's about connecting with the wider community. You see, studios and publishers can get trapped in a bubble sometimes, and they need feedback from their community to help them burst that and get their games right. And as they can't really communicate effectively with every single player, well, EA Gamechangers is a way of using prominent community figures to make that connection. Basically, the process is kind of meant to work like this. You guys, the players in our communities, tell us what you think of the game, and then we pass that feedback on to the studio. And, well, EA gives us the ability to do that in a number of different ways, either directly in person at special feedback events, or online directly to devs, or through to community managers. So in a nutshell, if you've got an issue with a particular EA title, what you're probably best off doing is getting in touch with a game changer in your community and letting them know how you feel. Because especially if it's something we feel strongly about as well, we'll not only pass that feedback on, we'll often get a wider conversation started, for example, on YouTube or social media, in a way that often the official EA channels won't. Now, part of the reason I wanted to make this video is because I think a lot of people just don't understand what it takes to become a game changer or how to apply. And well, there isn't really a simple answer to this one because although there is a pretty simple form to fill out on the website, which I'll link down below, that's no guarantee that you're gonna be accepted. Like I said before, Gamechangers is a community-based partnership program, so I would imagine that if you have your own community of your own, that would bump you up to the top of the list. And that doesn't just mean you have to be a content creator, there's lots of other people in the program from all different backgrounds, like for example, fan site admins or people involved with esports leagues. Now, just on that note, while I wouldn't recommend spamming EA community managers directly about it, I think it would help if you were noticed already for being active in the community before you applied. And that's basically how I became involved in the program. I actually didn't apply. The community manager for EA Australia at the time discovered me first and he contacted me directly. Which actually brings me to another point, which is that EA is a multinational company, and so a big part of Gamechangers is to connect with communities from all around the world to get unique perspectives from every region. And so I'm sure something that would help your application a lot is if you were already a strong voice within your region, because at the end of the day, it's going to be your local EA community manager who's going to decide whether or not you make the cut. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's get on to the pointy end of the video, which is the role of Gamechangers as an influencer program. Because I mean, at the end of the day, when you see a big AAA publisher like EA investing money into a program like this, you've got to ask yourself, what are they getting in return? And it's got to be more than just feedback, right? And just on the surface, you can tell that obviously a big part of this is when they fly out content creators to events like EA Play and Gamescom, it's going to generate a pretty big conversation on social media. And I mean, sure, I imagine having so many people talk about their games is a good thing from EA's perspective, but I think a common misconception is that Gamechangers are all getting paid to say good things, which is definitely not the case at all. To begin with, it's worth mentioning that most game changers, and at this point there's thousands, don't actually attend these big public events. And not just that, but there's also a ton of other secret events happening behind the scenes that no one ever gets to hear about. So hopefully that gives you a hint that the program is probably a lot bigger than you probably think it is. And it's also worth mentioning that most of the people that are invited to these events are only paid a small stipend for expenses, which as far as I know is actually something that's a legal requirement. And I mean, technically, you could consider that getting paid in some way, but considering to attend one of these events, you either have to take a week off work or from streaming or whatever, I think it's safe to say that the majority of invitees actually end up losing money by attending. So the question is, if we're not in it for the money, what is in it for us? And the simple answer is, well, number one, every game changer that I've ever met is a super fan of their particular franchise. And by attending these events, not only do we get to network and build relationships with the dev team and other community members, it's also pretty cool to know that you're actually having an impact on the game. And also, a lot of the time, you'll notice that we get to capture footage of content before it's released to the public. And especially for content creators, well, that helps us to grow our own communities. And not just that, but as part of some of these events, EA also puts on workshops for creators to help us build our own brands, just like, say, Google does for its YouTube creators. Now, apart from that though, and I know this is the part of the video you guys want to hear about, a very small percentage of creators are given the opportunity to create paid sponsored content. And this is another commonly misunderstood thing, because I think a lot of people just assume that all game changers are creating sponsored content, or that all of the content that game changers make is in some way sponsored. Just before we get too deep into this though, the main way you can tell that something is related to Game Changers, and the way that you can tell the difference, is by looking for these watermarks at the start of videos or streams. And basically it's pretty simple. The Sponsored by EA watermark is used when the content is sponsored, and the Game Changers watermark is used when the content isn't sponsored, but when the footage has been captured from a Game Changers exclusive opportunity. So what is the difference, and can EA tell us what to say? And well, the simple answer in my experience is the main thing they really care about is whether or not we use these watermarks correctly. And just to expand on that a little, and I can only speak for myself here, but personally I've never been told that I wasn't allowed to say something, whether it be in a sponsored video or just in the regular Game Changers ones. Now, with that being said though, because they are paid for, the topics of sponsored videos are obviously a bit more directed, but that's usually because they've got a particular goal in mind. And once again, I can only speak for myself here, but in my experience, the sponsored content I've done is a really good example of this. Like, for example, the Battlefield 5 bootcamp videos, which are basically tutorial videos for new players. But hang on, what if you are critical of EA games in a video or on social media? Does that mean that you're not eligible to become a game changer, or that you'll get kicked out of the program? And well, once again, this is just from my point of view, but it seems like the answer is probably not, but technically I guess it does depend on whether or not you're being constructive or not. I mean, you only have to look at some of the members of the BF Game Changers program. Some of them are super critical on a daily basis of various things that they don't like in the game. But here's the big difference, and maybe something that you might want to consider if you've applied and haven't been accepted to the program. They're being professional, they're being constructive, and they're not posting clickbait negative videos just for the sake of getting views. But anyway, guys, I guess that just about wraps up this video. So once again, if you've got any more questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. And as I said before, just remember that this is all from my perspective. This isn't an official video. And if you're after a more official line from EA itself, well, I'd really recommend that you check out some of the info on the Game Changers website, which I'll link in the description. As always, though, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And please feel free to check out the links in the description if you want to see any more of these videos. And also don't forget, you can find my Twitter and Discord links down there as well if you want to keep in touch. And as always, until next time, see you later and have a good one.